Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here again with chapter 18 of the book Ask and It Is Given. Chapter 18 is called You Can Gradually Change Your Vibrational Frequency. Not immediately, not with a jump, but you can gradually change your vibrational frequency. See, the thing is, just because we decide when we start learning about law of attraction and we discover how important it is for us to think positive thoughts, we want to go all the way positive. And yes, it is possible, but it is not sustainable for a very long period of time. And what we're looking for is progress that is sustainable. It's the same concept as when somebody loses a lot of weight, then they gain a little bit of it back. They have to reach that place of equilibrium. And that's what Abraham means, and that's what they want us to learn in this chapter, is that it's a gradual progression, even though that gradual progression can happen overnight. You can climb a stairwell within the period of an hour or less, depending on how many stairs there are. But there's nothing that says that you cannot have immediate improvement. What we are saying is that within that immediate improvement, there are still steps that you need to go through. And you cannot jump all the way to the top of the stairwell without going through the various steps. Okay, so let's take it one tiny step at a time. So Abraham says, of course, there's no thought that you cannot eventually have. Just as there is no place that you cannot eventually reach from wherever you are, but you cannot instantly jump to a thought that has a vibrational frequency very different from the thoughts you are usually thinking. And you know what, folks? The most interesting thing that Abraham says in this chapter is that it is law of attraction that will not allow you to think a thought that is substantially different from your current thought. And it's important to understand that. And what I want to do is, because I like the diagrams, I just think that the diagrams make things clearer. So comment below and let me know if you think that the diagrams make things clearer and easier to understand. Because it's all about you as far as I'm concerned. So let's get going. Okay. So here's my handy dandy board, or my daughter's handy dandy board, which I have borrowed with no intention of returning. Okay. So Abraham always refers to the emotional scale. And I have added to the emotional scale. So most people talk about the emotional scale. This is the emotional scale. Down here is despair. And up here is love. Somewhere in the middle here is worry. But there's another element to the emotional scale. And that element is momentum. Momentum is the depth of emotion and the acceleration caused by the amount of energy you have expended in thinking your thoughts. So momentum is what keeps us from changing the way we are thinking without going through the steps. And the reason is, I'll give you an example. Imagine that you are on a merry-go-round and it's going really, really fast. Well, do you think that you would want to either get on or get off that merry-go-round if it's going really fast? No, you won't. Because of what? The momentum of the merry-go-round. the momentum of the merry-go-round will not allow you to either get on or get off without getting hurt. What you have to do is you've got to increase your speed and bring it equal to the speed of the merry-go-round, and now you can jump on it, right? I remember as a child, if I wanted to get onto a merry-go-round, I used to have to ask my friends who were already on it to slow it down so that I could keep pace with it and get on it. And that's what I want to explain to you. And in fact, that is what Abraham is trying to explain to us in this chapter. So, you see, the energy that you need to be over here, love is a very high, very fast moving energy. Love is a very high, very fast moving energy. You cannot come up to speed with love and joy if you're over here at despair. Despair is a very low, slow moving energy. It can have a lot of momentum, right? So it is a very low, slow, but does not have to be slow moving, in the sense that it can have momentum, because momentum is what keeps you here. So think about it this way. There's a merry-go-round over here, and there's a merry-go-round over here, and there are many different merry-go-rounds, and it's like a course that you need to complete, not an obstacle course, but definitely like a course that you need to complete, where you've got to get off this merry-go-round and get onto this one. But before you can get onto this one, you've got to come up to speed with it. Only then can you get on it. And then there's another merry-go-round over here, and you've got to come up to speed with it to get here. Then you've got to come up to speed with this one, and then this one, and then this one. If you tried to jump from here all the way to this merry-go-round over here, that's not going to happen. Or at least it's not going to be easy. You're going to try. Just imagine running with that merry-go-round, trying to grab one of the bars so that you can hoist yourself up. It's not the easiest thing to do. It is not the easiest thing to do. And so that is why Abraham is saying you've got to complete all these steps in order to get to this one up here. If you can jump a step, so you can go from here to here and maybe jump here, but then because of the momentum, you will come back here. So the thing Abraham is suggesting is that we go up a step. So let me grab a different pen. So what Abraham is suggesting is that we go up here, and then we develop enough momentum to be stable here. Then we go up here, and we develop enough momentum to be stable here, and then enough momentum to be stable here, but not so much momentum that it keeps us here, because momentum is also the thing that keeps you where you are. Momentum is the thing that keeps. So if you were already on this merry-go-round and you wanted to get off, it's not going to let you get off, because it's spinning so fast that you have to really slow it down in order to get off it. So when you start understanding momentum with respect to the emotional scale, that is when you have the complete picture. So Abraham says, even though you do want to feel better, it has to come in steps in order for it to stick. And this is actually one of the reasons why affirmations, for the most part, don't work. Because if you use an affirmation that corresponds to an energy that's very high up compared to wherever you are, then you're not going to feel that high energy. And if you don't feel the high energy, that affirmation is not going to work for you. So affirmations, that's a whole other, I guess that's a whole other webinar that we could do. Okay, so let's go back here. As you discover that you can always know the vibrational content of your being and can therefore always be aware of what your point of attraction is, you will then be in conscious creative control of your experience. What do those words mean? Simply speaking, they mean knowing what emotion you're feeling. And you know what? That's what Abraham says, know where you are on the emotional scale. I personally have found it extremely hard to distinguish between where am I and what label should I give that emotion. So what I personally like doing is just to give it numbers from 1 to 10. So here, if I'm feeling depressed, that's a 1 or a 0, and worry is a 5, and then love and joy are a 10. So all I have to do is to have a benchmark, because without a benchmark you can't tell if you're a 10, right? What is a benchmark? A benchmark, you have to have a benchmark for when you were feeling really, really good, so that you can measure on a day-to-day basis how you're feeling in the moment. So I like to think of the times in my life when I had so much fun, and that fun was actually having a pillow fight with my brother, jumping up and down on our beds, which were next to each other, and throwing pillows at each other. Oh my God, that was so much fun. I love that. I also loved the same thing, playing with balloons with my parents and my brother and my children, and pillow fights with my children, and blowing bubbles. These are the three things that, to me, in my life, they're a 10. And so if I wanted to know how I'm feeling in any one moment, that's my benchmark. That's how I can tell where I am on the emotional scale. I know what worry feels like. Worry to me, so I've got a picture for all of these emotions, right? So 5 to me is my mother pacing up and down waiting for my father to come home. My mother sitting outside in the waiting room when my father is in surgery. That to me is worry, right? I've got it pinned down. I know how that feels. So I know if I'm feeling worry or not. I know if I'm a 5 or not. And I know how 1 feels. To me, 1 was the day I ran away from home because I was in an abusive relationship. That's 1. And I couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't know how I would deal with this whole situation. And to me, that's a 1. I hardly ever feel that way. That it's so many years since I felt that bad, right? I don't even go to worry anymore. I don't get worried easily anymore. Because what we want to do is, and I'm going back here, is that we want to start living our life in the top part of the emotional scale. That's what we want. We want to live our life at a high vibration so that even if we dip, we don't ever go here, and we certainly don't go here. We just kind of go bipping along gently over here. And as long as we are mostly in a state of satisfaction, and the feeling of satisfaction is kind of over here, if we stay at satisfaction and then things happen that make us happy, we go up, and then something happens, maybe to someone else, maybe to you, and you kind of dip, and you may go all the way down to worry. But because you've learned what to do, you won't stay at worry for very long. You might stay there for a little bit, but then you'll find your way back up. And this is where we start living life in a state of satisfaction. That is the objective, because love, as I like to say, or joy, is transient. Nobody can stay in a state of joy forever. You feel the joy of a yummy, creamy, delicious chocolate, and then it's gone, right? Joy, you don't stay in that phase forever. When you have an orgasm, you don't stay in that state forever. You peak, and then it's that crescendo, and then you come down. Where do you come down to? Satisfaction. Now you know what I mean, right? Or at least I hope you do. Okay. So let's move on. Okay, I'm going to read this to you because I found this impactful. Choosing a different thought will always produce a different emotional response. So you could say, I will deliberately choose my thoughts so that I can feel better. That would be a good decision for you to make. An even better decision, and really an easier one to make, is I want to feel good. So I will try to feel good by choosing a thought that does feel good. And I want to add here, it's not about something that feels good, it is about something that feels better. Because good to me implies going all the way to the top of the emotional scale. And I know from my own experience, and Abraham is saying the same thing, it's about better, a better feeling thought, a thought that makes you feel that you have more control over your life. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a better feeling thought. And that's how you go from one merry-go-round to another merry-go-round, because as you start feeling a better feeling thought and you generate more momentum on it, now you can skip from here to here. Okay? Very good. Awesome. Okay. What is next? So, and then Abraham comes back to these words that they like to repeat. If it is your decision to follow your bliss, and why wouldn't it be, right? Why wouldn't you want to follow your bliss? Why wouldn't you want to do those things that you want to do? Why wouldn't you want to live life on your own terms? I think that is the definition of freedom, living life at your own terms. That is what freedom and joy are all about. And I think that all of us gravitate towards that. That's what all of us want. We all want that freedom and joy. So, reaching for a better feeling thought is like following the instructions of the GPS. Remember that in the chapter before, chapter 17, we discussed the role of the GPS was to keep us on track on the route that we are on, going towards the place that we want to go. And so that's what we are reaching for. That's what we want. We have to stay on track. How do you stay on track? By moving slowly or fast. Doesn't matter. Your speed does not matter, because like I said when we started, that you can close the gap between being low on the emotional scale to being really high very quickly. It's not about the amount of time that it takes, but you do have to go through the steps. And going through the steps actually gives you stability, so that when you do get to the top, that you are able to maintain your position at the top. Okay, so the key to moving up the vibrational emotional scale is to be consciously aware of, even sensitive to, the way you feel. And that's what it's all about. It's about when you notice that, two things happen. Either you notice how you're feeling, and if you become used to being in a state of satisfaction, you're very quick at recognizing when you're not there. Like yesterday, I was telling you how I came down the emotional scale, but I was able to clue into it really, really quickly, because it's not a place that I'm used to being. So the contrast, the difference between where I usually am and where I was yesterday was so big that I couldn't help noticing that I was not feeling good. And when I noticed it, then I did something about it. I shifted my thoughts and I started saying things to myself that made me feel a little bit better. And that is what it is all about. It's about feeling better. And then once I started feeling better, then that heavy feeling was gone. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't bring it back because it was gone, right? So that's the important thing. It's about being in touch with your feelings to the extent that you can tell where you are from the point of view that you know when you're far away enough from a feeling of satisfaction that you are able to do something about it. And doing something is doing it in your head, not actually taking action. It's about shifting your thoughts and looking for a thought that feels better. And I think yesterday or the day before, I published a video where I shared with you the things that I have done in my past as I started learning how to employ effective strategies for staying on track with what I wanted to achieve with law of attraction. I've shared, I think there are about 7 different strategies in that video, and I'll pin it under this one so that you can easily go to it. But use some of those strategies, because I can tell you from my personal experience that they work and they are simple. I know that there are a lot of teachers who are throwing a lot of stuff at people and calling it law of attraction. A lot of it is not law of attraction, and a lot of it is law of attraction, but it's not. It's made harder than it needs to be. It is really, I'm telling you, law of attraction at the base of it is extremely simple and easy to learn. And there are just a few things that when you learn them, off you go. There's no end to how high you can fly with them. And like I said, the 2 most important things in my opinion are, first of all, knowing where you are on the emotional scale and understanding the role of momentum. Momentum plays a really important role. Okay. If you take the time to consciously determine the emotion that you are currently experiencing, then any improvement in your feeling means that you are making progress towards your goal. So it's about observing how you feel. And the next thing, I said 2 things, and the next thing is what you're manifesting. If you're manifesting things mostly that you like, then you're on the right track and you're on the route to where you want to go, and eventually you will get there. The speed of how fast you get there just simply depends on the amount of time that it takes you to get up to speed with each merry-go-round on the way up to a place of satisfaction, hope, and joy. All right. So we are at the last paragraph here. So a good way to feel your way up this vibrational emotional scale is to always be reaching for the feeling of relief. See, when Abraham uses the word relief, to me that means that they're saying use a better feeling thought, not a good feeling thought, but a better feeling thought. Because when you reach for a better feeling thought, then you are slowly making your way, going through all the levels of the emotional scale until you get right to the top. Okay, the stream of well-being is always flowing through you, and the more you allow it, the better you feel. The more you resist it, the worse you feel. So folks, that brings us to the conclusion of this chapter. And the most important thing that I want you to take away from this chapter is that going up the emotional scale is a gradual progression, looking for better feeling thoughts, but it can be done in a very short time. It does not have to take a long time to get through it. With that, I'm going to bring our evening today to a close. If you have any questions or comments, please post them and I will look after them. So you can post them on YouTube under the video and I will respond to them as fast as I can. Get up to speed with you. Okay, folks, thank you for joining me, and I'm going to say have a fabulous rest of the evening, and I'll see you tomorrow with the next chapter of the book, Ask and It Is Given. Good night.